December 1944, the Ardennes Forest, German officer Helmut Ritter bends over the body of an American soldier. In the pocket, letters home, photographs, a pack of Lucky Strike. The date on the last letter, 4 days ago. The soldier had been fighting without pause for 48 days. 48 Ritter is geschockt. According to all military medical standards, a fighter loses combat effectiveness after 20 days at the front, at most 25. That was true on the Western Front of the First World War, and it was confirmed by the battles in the East. After that, a man breaks down. The psyche collapses, hands tremble, the weapon slips from his palms. Yet the Americans are still shooting accurately in an organized way, as if they had just come out of a training center. Ritter does not know the crucial fact. This soldier is not an exception. He is part of a system. When the Germans planned Operation Wehrmacht, their last great offensive in the West, they based it on one assumption. The Americans were exhausted. They had been fighting since June, half a year of battles from the beaches of Normandy to the borders of the rich. By all the laws of military science, their combat capacity should have been almost drained. But on December 16, 1944, when 20 divisions of the Wehrmacht surged forward into the Ardennes, the Americans did not crumble. They withdrew, but they held on. They lost positions, but did not panic. And within just 10 days, they halted the strongest German strike of the final year of the war. Why? The answer lies not only in courage, not in tanks or planes. The key was a system the Americans called the rotation policy, a simple idea that changed the very notion of human endurance. The Germans never understood it until the end. Their soldiers fought until they either ended up in a hospital or a mass grave. The Americans built a different logic. A soldier is not a cartridge. He cannot be expended in a single battle. He must be preserved, pulled from the line, and returned to the fight restored. This script is the story of how the U.S. Army created a system that allowed its soldiers to last longer, fight more effectively, and suffer fewer psychological breakdowns than any other force of the Second World War. It is the story of how bureaucracy turned into a weapon, how tables and charts saved thousands of lives, how proper organization proved stronger than fanaticism. Let us begin with what the Germans saw with their own eyes. November 1944. The Western Front from the Netherlands to Switzerland. German intelligence compiles reports. The picture is the same everywhere. The Americans attack daily without pause, without visible fatigue. Oberturm Bonführer Joachim Peiper, commander of the 1st SS Panzer Division, notes, "The enemy shows unusual endurance. Units we observed a week ago are still holding positions. No signs of demoralization or exhaustion are visible." To the Germans, this is puzzling. Their divisions usually fight for a few weeks, then are pulled back into reserve. There they are replenished and given rest. Then the cycle starts again. But by the end of 1944, there are no reserves left. Units fight until collapse. Soldiers fall not from bullets, but from exhaustion. Psychiatric cases are rising. The diagnosis, neurose war neurosis, becomes official. The figures are shocking. According to military medicine, after 30 days of continuous combat, a unit loses up to 40% of its combat strength without a single enemy shot. Men simply stop functioning. Hands shake. Eyes fail to focus. Reactions slow. They become easy targets. The Americans, however, keep fighting day after day, week after week, and the Germans cannot understand how. They do not know about the documents on General Omar Bradley's desk. They have no idea that the soldier in the front line is just the tip of a vast mechanism, a mechanism that had begun turning already in North Africa. January 1943, North Africa. The Americans face the Wehrmacht for the first time in a large battle and suffer catastrophe. The Kasserine Pass, February 19th to 25th. Rommel and the Italians smashed the U.S. II Corps. Losses: 300 killed, 3,000 wounded, 3,000 captured. But worse than the numbers was what the psychiatrists saw. Major Albert Glass, chief psychiatrist of the 2nd Armored Division, writes, "Soldiers arrive at the medical station with symptoms unrelated to wounds. Trembling, loss of speech, apathy. One sits for 6 hours staring at a single point, unresponsive. The diagnosis: combat stress. In the First World War, it had been called shell shock or trench neurosis. The essence was the same. The nervous system collapses. In just 3 days of fighting, Glass treated 300 men with such symptoms, more than the number of the wounded. In some units, up to 30% of personnel broke down without a single bullet. Commanders were alarmed. The new leader of the two corps, General George Patton, reacted harshly, visiting hospitals, yelling at soldiers, calling them cowards, even slapping one in the face. The scandal nearly cost him his position, but the question Patton asked was precise. If 1/3 of soldiers collapse in 3 days, what will happen after a month? After 3, Glass and his colleagues began analyzing. They studied medical histories, interviewed soldiers, searched for patterns, and found them. It turned out that the ones breaking down were not the newcomers. It was those who had been fighting the longest. Men who survived the first month often became patients in the second. By the third, most were unfit. The curve was simple. First 2 weeks, adaptation. Third to fifth weeks, peak performance. After the 6th week, steep decline. After the 8th week, most are unfit. The conclusion was clear. Soldiers must be withdrawn from the front before they break. But when and how? Glass wrote a report and sent it upward. They read it and set it aside until Sicily, July 1943. Operation Husky, the landing in Sicily, 160,000 Allied troops, the first major amphibious operation in Europe. The fighting lasts 38 days, and once again, hundreds of cases of combat stress. Captain Frederick Hansen, psychiatrist of the 1st Infantry Division, keeps records in the first week, 120 cases. In the second, 340. In the third, 680. The progression is relentless, but now commanders have Glass's report in hand. They are ready to try something new. Colonel George Taylor, commander of the 16th Infantry Regiment, decides companies must rotate. 9 companies of the regiment take turns. 3 days on the front, 3 days in reserve. The result is striking. In Taylor's regiment, psychiatric cases fall by half compared to others. Combat effectiveness rises. Soldiers endure because they know that in 3 days they will rest. Hansen documents everything, compiles charts, and writes a report. This time, General Dwight Eisenhower reads it himself. Eisenhower is a pragmatist. He sees the numbers and instantly grasps. This works. He issues an order. The rotation system must apply across all divisions. Not a recommendation, an order. But a new problem arises. It is one thing to rotate companies in a regiment, quite another to rotate entire divisions in an army. That requires logistics, planning, coordination. A full system must be built, and that is exactly what they began to create. Yuma, September 1943, London, headquarters of SHA, the Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. In a small office on the 3rd floor sits Colonel William Manager. Once a civilian psychiatrist, now he is the chief consultant on the morale of American troops. On his desk lies a mountain of reports from Tunisia, Sicily, and Italy, where battles have already raged for 2 months, and all of them say the same thing. Without a system of rotations, the army will be exhausted long before Berlin. Manair is no romantic. He does not believe in intuition, but in numbers, and he begins drawing charts. Chart 1, combat effectiveness. It rises in the first 2 weeks, peaks in the third, and then plunges. After 6 weeks, collapse. Chart 2, psychiatric cases. First week, isolated. Third week, dozens. 6th week, already hundreds per division. Chart 3, combat losses. Soldiers who hold the front for more than 6 weeks die 3 times more often than newcomers. The reason is simple. Fatigue kills reaction. From this comes the conclusion. The optimal time at the front is 4 weeks, 6 at most. After that, the unit must be pulled back for at least 2 weeks in reserve. But how to put this into practice? By the end of 1943, there are only 8 American infantry divisions in Europe. By June 1944, there will be 21. By the end of the war, 41. Each holds 14,000 men. How to rotate 500,000 soldiers without collapsing the front. Menner works with a group of logistics officers, and they create a system simple on paper, intricate like a Swiss mechanism. Its foundation, 3 echelons. First-line combat units, second-line Corps Reserve, third-line Army Reserve. The scheme is this: a unit fights 4 weeks, then it is pulled off the line and replaced by one from the Corps Reserve. The veterans receive 2 weeks of rest and replacements, then another 2 in the Army Reserve and back to the front. A full cycle: 4 weeks of fighting, 2 weeks in Corps Reserve, 2 weeks in Army Reserve, 8 weeks. And then the cycle repeats on paper. Flawless. But war rarely obeys paper schemes. January 1944. Italy, Anzio. The Allies land trying to outflank the German Gustav Line. The operation drags into a bloody standoff lasting 4 months. Here the rotation system is launched in full scale for the first time. Major General John Lucas. They rarely receive medals. Their names are not always in textbooks, yet their work saved the Army. The lesson is simple. War is not only courage, but also intellect, planning, and knowledge of the human being. Sometimes the best weapon is not a tank, but a well-made table. The Germans did not see the tables. They saw soldiers who did not break, and they did not know why.